like 60 people. Well done,
Sorry,
Laura,
didn't
for
I tell
remembering.
you I was going to have to remember that? So
Yeah, there you
everybody
go.
missed my fabulous intro on the recording about how I personally enrolled Ste way back when, about 5 years ago. And I was just saying I wanted Ste to introduce himself, and then I blew it because I forgot to record. So now we're recording. Take two.
Take two. Pow. How we doing, fam? It's good to see everybody. It's good to see, 60 plus people on it. I see some familiar names. I see some familiar faces, and I just friggin' love this community. Primal Health Coach was the jumping off point for me to really take health coaching and make it something that I do now for a full-time living and literally live my dream. And I believe it's possible for everybody. So my story begins as your classic 22, 23-year-old something trying to find his feet in the world and deciding that he had to start adulting. And I was, at a good job with prospects, all of that stuff. Definitely wasn't my heart's pursuit. It definitely wasn't what I envisioned that I wanted to do, but it was safe and it was secure and it had a good salary and all of that fun stuff. And as life goes, you get unexpected things that come onto your path, and that for me was a woman. We're working at a summer camp. It was my last hurrah and my summer of freedom before I went home to adult, and I met a girl called Nicole, and Nicole is now my wife and the mom of my son, who's 2 years old. So it's all come full circle. But that story started when she was going on a solo traveling trip to South America and then Southeast Asia, and she invited me along. And love is blind and crazy and all of those things. So we said, you know what, screw it, let's go. And throughout that process, then we ended up backpacking and traveling for 4 years. And the whole time my health journey started a long time before that. My health journey started when I was around 16 years old, when I was basically terrified of my family's ill health and dire history with chronic lifestyle diseases, diabetes, cancer, and you name it. And I was kind of living in that realm of believing that my genetics was very much stacked against me, and it was only a matter of time until I died, long before my time. And that pushed me into just consuming material. And I stumbled upon Mark's Daily Apple and Mark's Sisson blog and understood the idea of like, hey, your genes may load the gun, but your environment pulls the trigger, and started to just become obsessed with this. So I was driving to university at the time, just consuming podcasts before podcasts were even such a big thing, and reading Mark's book. And, so then, you go through uni, I go through life, I go through meeting this girl, I'm traveling for 4 years, I'm basically off the grid. One of the very good pieces of advice my parents gave me was avoid the real world for as long as you can. So when they were very surprised when I told them I was going traveling the world with a stranger, I said, hey, you said avoid the real world for as long as you can. And while I was doing that, I took a stack of books with me. I was downloading podcasts when I could find Wi-Fi, and I was just learning and learning and learning. And after 4 years, that kind of was, fading out. The money is not great when you're backpacking, and, you've got to eventually come and settle down. So I was settling down, and it was right on the back end of a trip. I was in Costa Rica. I was on a sun lounger, kind of dreading returning to the real world. It was a couple of days until I came home to America. And I was listening to a podcast on Mark's Daily Apple, and an advertisement played at the end. And I never let the advertisements play, because who does, right? We just skip them. But this particular one was an advertisement about the Primal Health Coaching certification. And it hit me then, boom, like a light bulb. I was like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. I said, I'm not going to work a normal job. I'm not going to do the 9 to 5 thing. I've learned so much. I've transformed my health. I could help people do this. That day, I put in a call submission to the calendar. I ended up speaking to this crazy lady called Laura Rupus, and she said, the best thing you'll ever do is invest in yourself, and the rest is history, as they say. So I invested in the Primal Health Coaching certification with the last of my gold schmeckles that I could gather together from being a broke backpacker. Did the program, and I think it probably graduated almost 5 years ago now. And here I am making 6-figure salary in back-to-back years from online health coaching. And now I help other people still in the health coaching realm reclaim their health, and also show other coaches that that's friggin' possible too. So that's kind of my story and my health coaching story. And obviously we'll get into the nitty gritty of all the good details. But yeah, the Primal Health Coach was the jumping off point for me to take something that seemed like a crazy idea. And I just was like, can this really work? And then a lot of working, a lot of messy action, some good guidance from some mentors, and hopefully some things I can share with you tonight to say that, yeah, it can very much work, and you can do this, and you can be financially rewarded by helping people change their lives. And it's like having a cheat code, because you get to do this, you get to have fun doing this, you get to make a good salary and livelihood with a lot of freedom from doing this. So it's bloody possible. Buckle up, it takes some work, but it's very possible. And it's a blessing to speak to this community tonight.
Oh my gosh, we're just so excited. And what I love about your story is, as unique as it is, not everybody has spent years backpacking, but I think everybody can relate to the pull towards a job, the pull towards something stable. And I get that. And you know what? The good news is, in the health coaching world, those are options now. They really weren't back when I started. And they were very few and far between when you started, if at
Yeah.
all. So really the only real viable way was starting your own business, which I think terrifies a lot of people. But the good news is, for those of you that in your heart of hearts knows, hey, I'm not an entrepreneur, or I don't feel like I'm one, you can certainly test your coaching chops, at a job first and go that road. But what I would love to hear from you, because this is a question I get all the time from folks that are still a little, I guess, unclear about what health coaching is, because there really is no one legal definition out there. So I would love to know, what, at this juncture, now that you've been doing this a while, how would you describe what health coaching is?
Yeah, it's a really great question, because I think health is a bit of a loaded term. It means different things for different people. So I'll say it a couple of ways. The very basic way is a health coach is someone who helps facilitate change, or a little deeper, as a coach is someone that helps navigate the unknown territories of transformation. I think that's a deeper way of saying it. The helping people navigate the unknown territories of transformation, because what we're doing as health coaches, and I know this is probably a follow-up question because it evolves as we evolve as coaches, is we think we're just helping people with like a new diet, new habits. But really, if that's going to stick, and good coaches make things stick, it's not enough to just teach people what to eat. You've got to fundamentally change their beliefs. You've got to fundamentally change the way they look at things. So that transformation process is very hard, because humans and our ego structures in our mind very much don't like the transformation process, because it's change. There's a lot of resistance there. So a coach helps somebody walk into those murky waters and clears the path for them and says, hey, I've done this, and this is how we're going to do it. Like, come with me, borrow my belief until it becomes yours. So that's really what a coach does. It's you guys are so much more important than just saying, hey, clean out your pantry, and this is why you don't eat seed oils. Like, yes, it's a huge component of the education, but it's so much deeper than that. A coach is really helping facilitate change and helping people navigate the unknown territories that come with transformation.
What a great way to phrase it, because this is the pushback that I get. Well, first of all, if I say I'm a health coach, it's, well, what is that? What are you, a nutritionist? What are you, a personal trainer? And I'm like, no, I mean, we deal in nutrition and we'll talk about that. And I deal in fitness as well. We can talk about that. But a health coach is so much more than that. And I love the way you described that. Marissa, love that. Borrow my belief until it becomes yours. Yes, the first 2 weeks are about the food and the rest is all about mindset, says Janice. Absolutely. I love that. So I heard you say, I think the definition of health coaching sort of evolves over time. So how has it evolved for you? What do you think it was in your own mind when you first started compared to now? And was there anything about the way you perceived it back then that might have tripped you up a little bit or caused some challenges?
Yeah, for sure. I think what we do as coaches is, well, here's something I think is very powerful to understand, is that you can only take a client on a journey as far as you've been. So when you start as a coach, you are to a degree hamstringed a little bit by the journey of personal transformation that you've been on. So if it's at a certain level, it's hard to take people radically beyond that level. You might be able to stretch because you understand certain things. But if we're really talking about, big lasting transformation, it's much easier to talk to that from a position of authority when you've lived it. So, my story getting into health coaching was a lot more surface level. It was like, I was an athlete. I was a very high level athlete. I competed in semi-professional rugby league, nearly made it pro, didn't quite make it pro, then competed in mixed martial arts, won a couple of amateur British titles, knew how to train, knew how to look good, was shreddy Kruger, six-pack abs, lean, look good on a beach, all of that stuff, but realized that, oh shit, that doesn't actually mean much. It doesn't fix you. It doesn't make you a certain way. I still had all the same problems, whether I had a six-pack abs or whether I was carrying, 20% body fat. Like, nothing changed. So then it drove me into myself even more. It's like, okay, well, this health thing is clearly important, and operating in this, meat suit is obviously great. When the healthier you are, you can kind of experience more of life, but there's other aspects to this. And that was getting the mind on board. And then that was integrating the head and the heart, this 8-inch journey here is like the longest journey a human can ever take. And our culture is so heady, but it's lost its heart. So it was as I started to go through my personal transformation, of course, that my coaching changed. Because what you'll see, whether you're a new coach or an established coach, you'll start seeing that what you coach is really what you're learning and what you're interested in. That's kind of what we do. You know, we're again, in this idea of taking clients on journeys as far as you've been, we're learning things that excite us, and then we're pulling out the best bits, and then we're saying, hey, come on this journey with me. So at first it was more surface level. It was just about, let's fix your diet, let's get you exercising as per the primal movements, let's get you sprinting once in a while, and let's, you know, build some muscle. And then it just evolved into, yeah, let's do all of that, and let's integrate the head and the heart, and let's unpack your limiting beliefs, and let's change your mindset, and let's make this a way of life. So yeah, it's coaching will evolve as the person who's doing the coaching evolves, and that's the most important thing you can do as a coach. In fact, the only thing you can do as a coach is work on yourself, and that's it. You know, that's where the rubber hits the road. Continue working on yourself, because your clients will reap the rewards because of that.
Yeah, we talk about a lot on our podcast about if health coaches expect their clients to do the work, you've got to be willing to do the work too.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way you frame, you know, you can only take clients as far as you've been. And what I want people to take away from that is a very, I guess, abundant way to decipher what that means. Because I will get from people, and I'd love for you to address this. Well, I don't look like Ste Lane, or I don't
Mm-hmm.
look like Mark Sisson, or I don't look like I popped off the cover of, Shape magazine or whatever. Who's going to hire me?
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, the 95% of the population that don't look like any of those people either, and they likely won't. But the fact of the matter is on your journey and how far you've already come, regardless of where that is, there are people that need to still go through that journey. So, and a prime example of this, and I don't know if you guys follow them or not. I think you do. Steve, know who they are. But there's two guys from a company called Keto Gains.
Mm-hmm.
Louis Villasenor, who's always actually been small and learned how to actually add muscle. But then there's Tyler, who this guy was like 400 pounds and finally got down to 2 something. So even at 2 something at his frame, if you didn't know his past history, he still looked a little soft, I guess, right? But the journey he was on was unbelievable. And he was out there talking about it. So you don't have to look like a swimsuit model, right? You just need to be authentic. So I would love for you, you're just so good at phrasing things better than I am. So I would love your thoughts on that for folks that might be feeling that way.
Yeah, for sure. It's really, you know, there's that old saying that gets thrown around a lot as well, that comparison is the thief of joy. You know, there's certainly a lot of that in this space. There's a lot of comparison. There's a lot of imposter syndrome. I want you to think about imposter syndrome a different way, fam, because the way in which a lot of people experience imposter syndrome is when they're comparing themselves to other people in this field. So you might feel like an imposter if you compare yourself to Mark Sisson, for example, because Mark is the OG Shreddy Krueger at 65 years old and has like a $10 million sale to Heinz and runs the most successful health blog and has this many followers, right? Who here is not going to feel wholly inadequate when they compare themselves to Mark Sisson? Now, here's the thing. That then gives us a sense of imposter syndrome. That then creates negative momentum. That then stops us from showing up because we believe, who's going to listen to me when there's these people out there? But the truth is, all of the imposter syndrome we feel is amongst our peers, and our peers are the only people that are never going to buy from us. So what a waste of energy to feel imposter syndrome comparing yourself to other people in your field that are never going to be the clients that you transform their lives and are never going to pay you for your services. Because the truth is, your clients don't need me. They don't need Laura. They don't need Maxis, and they need you. They need you, because only you can do what you do in your way, and you're the best at it in the world because you're the only person that can do it.
You know, a great example of this, I was coaching a CrossFit class yesterday, right? And there's a young man, very fit, very strong, trying to execute efficiently something called a muscle up. It's when you are hanging from a bar, you're able to pull yourself, not only your chin over the bar, but get your entire body up over the bar. And he had the strength to actually do it, but there has been coach after coach after coach that was trying to explain to him how to do this in a way that was much more efficient so he didn't waste his upper body strength. And all I had to say was, use your arms like a lever and stop pulling, meaning push down on the bar instead of, anyway, the long story is, it all just had to do with the way I said it that clicked for him, even though there were all these other people that came before that tried to teach him, and it just didn't click with him the same way. And this will be the case. The one thing Mark Sisson always says, and I love that you brought this up, is that I might have said it a million different ways, and there are other people that you follow that might have said it another way, but you're going to have your own way of phrasing things and of doing things that finally the aha moment, the light bulb goes off for that client. And those are the people you need to find. Okay. So I just put in the chat here, please send me your questions, anyone. So Mary Lou actually had a comment. The internal changes and transformations ultimately drive what and how we show up every moment and every day. Absolutely right. So I'm going to pause for just a minute and see if anybody has a question that they want to just throw out there. You're free to unmute yourself. Otherwise, I've got lots more. But I want to give the folks listening a chance to ask any questions that have come to mind at this point. Anyone?
I have a question.
Yes.
How much does the understanding of how the human psyche works play into the health coaching? Because it's the mind that controls the body, not the other way around. Do you have anything you can expound upon that?
Yeah, so what was really helpful to me as well in the Primal Health Coaching certification was that it was so much more than just a diet program as well. And it's only been bolstered since then in terms of like adding some elements around like business coaching, talking to the importance of helping people facilitate and work through limiting beliefs and facilitate change, and the handouts and the questionnaires. That's all to do with that because, you know, Jeremy, you make a good point that the body often follows the head. And if you can't get the head on board, eventually you're going to sabotage yourself, because what's the other solution there is that, you know, you are doing it for, you know, you're just like willpowering your way through this change, or you're doing it because you invested in a coach. But if you're only doing it because of this like external pressure that you're applying on yourself, and it's not internally derived, it's not a process goal, it's not internally driven, then you're living on borrowed time. And I think we've all on our health journeys probably seen this a little bit. When we work for things for the wrong reasons, we have these kind of up and down results. When we actually switch our psyche completely, and maybe we, like an example, we stop trying to lose weight and we start trying to gain health, like it changes the whole friggin' thing. The outcome pretty much like, or the process itself might look very similar, but the approachability and the sustainability of it is radically different, because the way in which we view it changes our self-talk, changes the language from like, oh, I have to do this because I'm overweight and I'm going to get sick, to, oh no, I get to do this because I get to see what my body's capable of. I get to experience life from this highest possible, you know, level of consciousness through health. It's so different. So the mindset work is tantamount to the physical success. And sometimes, you know, when you don't get what you want, you get what you need. You know, a lot of people approach it from a very physical standpoint, and then they realize that that's not there, guilty, and then they have to pivot. Some people come at it probably more soundly from let's fix the mind first and the body will follow. But they're both very equally important. You know, the mind creates this feedback loop, the body reinforces it. So you got to get both working. And when both are working, you have got a very good, efficient machine that is going to help you on this health journey.
Oh yeah. You know, it's interesting when I talk to folks about why we include both aspects in our course pretty in depth for a reason. And it's because, you know, when you put yourself out there as a health coach, your clients are just going to assume you know about the body. They're going to assume you have some sort of working knowledge around health and around the body. They don't expect you to be a doctor, but they're going to assume you know something. And so we don't assume that you're coming to this course with that knowledge ahead of time. We teach it to you. But at the same time, all the information in the world is only going to get you so far if you're not in a place where you can actually apply it repeatedly and consistently over time. You know, and this is where the concept of, you know, you can sort of borrow this belief from me in the meantime, because so many clients, I mean, it takes time for actively choosing a new behavior to finally become a habit. Once something's a habit, it's easy. And that's really what takes time. So I absolutely love that. And in the primary course, we're digging into that in kind of a self-study format. So for those of you that are students or graduates in this course, if you're not jumping on the webinars, the free webinars we do every month with Erin, especially around the coaching role plays, what a phenomenal tool. Okay. So if you have or have not been, even as a graduate, I think it's great to jump back into those, to just re-engage around what coaching really is, what it isn't, and what is just sort of the nature of the health coaching business. You know, when clients ask you questions about food or movement or what have you, certainly you're going to need to be prepared to answer that question, because there's nothing more frustrating than when a coach only answers a question with a question. all the time. Sometimes that's the right thing to do, right? Sometimes a client asks you a question and you probably have to ask a few questions to make sure they're in the right frame of mind. You really understand why they're asking and what information does this client really need to do something meaningful with the answer to that question, or am I better off putting it back to them and having them really doing an internal search? But some of the feedback I've gotten from folks that have worked with coaches in the past is they just never really answered my question. They just kept asking me more questions. So there's a balance there. So those coaching role plays are really, really helpful. And we go even deeper in the level 2 course around all that stuff. So I love that. So I've got some other comments here. Sarah, I talk with so many other grads from other programs. PHCI does such a better job of driving into the business model and strategy and process than others. Mary Beth is, let's see. Oh, there's a few in here that I missed. Okay, I really need to understand the why. All clients have such different reasons why. Must link to their work and their why. You're absolutely right, and that's a part of the coaching course as well. Question, how much time or percentage of time in a health coaching business is dependent on social media, online or marketing? This is a great question for you, Steve, because you've actively used Instagram. And I have like the polar opposite experience, by the way. So maybe we can kind of share both strategies. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So Instagram, social media sphere, Facebook, TikTok, these are your virtual business cards, in the world that we live in now. The ability and location and time freedom afforded by something like online health coaching plays hand in hand to people that are mostly in the online space. So the beautiful thing about having an online presence or building an online presence, and by the way, there's a very common limiting belief amongst coaches that, I've only got 50 followers. I look at these people, they have 10,000. How am I going to do it? I guarantee you right now, I would rather have 50 highly qualified ideal client avatars in my audience than 10,000 people that are never going to pay me for my services. So it's not about quantity at all. It's classic back to quality. And the way you're going to curate that audience is by doing a few things to firstly, figure out who it is that you're serving. Like what, where your magic exists as a coach is where two things intersect, and it's the needs of the world and it's your natural gifts. At that point where they meet, that's where you deliver. That's where you really speak to. And if you're speaking to that message, you're also then asking, well, who is the kind of person that would benefit the most from this message? Because a trick that many health coaches fall into, and I'll tell you this from firsthand experience because I spent a few years trying to do this, is to try and to reach everybody because we believe that we can save everybody. And the problem is, it's that classic, when you try and reach everybody, you reach no one. He who chases two rabbits catches none. And the invitation there is to actually change that and realize just because you can help many people doesn't mean that you should try and help many people. What you potentially should do is figure out who you can help the most and craft what I call an ICA, an ideal client avatar. Who is this person? What age are they? What's their name? Where do they live? How do they spend their time? Who do they hang out with? What do they eat? What do they wear? What are they thinking? What are their pain points? Like, you want to understand who you are speaking to deeper than they know themselves. And then you want to create content that speaks exactly to the things that they are getting stuck on, because then they're going to find you. They're going to say, holy smokes, this person is in my head. And you're going to be top of mind aware when they think of solving their problems. You're going to build trust. You are going to be able to answer questions. You are going to be able to engage with your ideal clients right away and get real-time feedback from them. And this is then how you build an audience, however small. It could be 10 people. Again, if you have 10 people that are 100% ICAs who are going to invest in you, you've got a business, because you can make $25,000 off those 10 people. That's a lot more than most coaches will ever make, because they don't follow a process and a formula. So it's about understanding who you're speaking to and then using your social media platforms to bring up this ideal client avatar as you go into content creation mode. So don't just throw out generic advice about the danger of grains. Think about, okay, I know all of this about grains. How does this tie into my ICA, who I've thought is a woman between 30 and 50 years old, who is married with kids with a household income of $100,000, who struggles with X, Y, and Z. Now, let me think about her and let me give her the best, most sound, solid advice I can onto why this is going to impact her life. Now, if you do that, that's where social media becomes just an infinite wellspring of qualified leads that you can take from cold to warm to hot, to on a call, to money in your pocket, and you doing what it is that you love very, very quickly. How much and how time that takes depends on how often you're showing up and the quality of your content. And where a lot of people get stuck is that classic same stuff we spoke about, the procrastination because of the imposter syndrome. Who's going to listen to me? What's the point putting this out? I've only got 20 people and they're all friends and family. Well, guess what? If you do that forever, you're never going to reach anybody. So the only way you could do it is to start. It's only action that creates clarity. Thinking a little bit, we need to think a little bit, but action creates more clarity than any amount of thinking will ever do. So just start posting, start having fun. If you don't know your niche yet, start putting out different things and see what resonates. Start thinking about your own journey. Because here's the last point I'll make on that is a lot of people like, I don't know where to niche. I don't know who my ideal client avatar is. Start with you. Start with your journey, because you've taken yourself on your own health journey, which makes you an expert at that kind of transformation. So speak to that kind of transformation from your position of expertise, and then just see where that goes. But try it. It's an incredible time right now that you can create content on a platform that's completely for free and have that build sustainable businesses. Without social media, I would not be in a position where I am today. I know that much. Now, I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but it is my business model and it's a bloody effective one.
Yeah. And that's where your clients are, right? The people that you're trying to reach, that's where they live. So whereas my social media is really more just about, this is the way I live my life, and sort of living by example, so that if somebody meets me and they find me on Facebook or they find me on Instagram, they know I live this way every day. Right. And this is something that I work hard at and practice every day. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle in today's world is not easy if you don't do it on purpose. I do have to get better at using it now that a big chunk of my business, I built very slowly. I mean, could not have been slower. I was still working a full-time job. I was working 50 hours a week. I had 2 kids, bigger kids. I eventually got knocked up again in my 40s and had 2 more kids. So I was just literally meeting people in the grocery store, on the soccer field, at the baseball field, people that I went to the gym with. And I always had like a couple of people that I was working with on a regular basis. And that was fine for me. I was making extra money. I was saving more money for college, actually, putting money away for Matt for college and Mia for college and going on better vacations. So that was awesome. And then I eventually opened a gym, and a lot of my coaching was done through the gym. But because of all that other work I did before, with maybe a couple dozen people tops, they all referred me people. So they turned into maybe 2 or 3 more people. Plus I had my gym clients. And now that I've moved down to Florida, I'm not necessarily working out of that gym anymore. But guess what? I'm now coaching at another CrossFit gym. So people down here can get to know me. I'm in my community and I am part of the special events committee, the fun squad, and we need to raise some money. So I'm going to do a fundraiser for our special events by doing a paid nutrition workshop, like a seminar series where people pay for that. So I'm not keeping the money. That's actually going to be donated. But what a great way it's like free marketing as far as I'm concerned. Right. And then my social media right now is just backing all that up. Right. It's like walking the walk, talking the talk, and so on. But I also know over time, I'm going to need to no doubt pick that up. Mary Beth, I saw your question. I'm going to get to that because I have it in my questions too. It's about how we actually build the practice, Steve. Okay, so I want to make sure that we come back to Mary Beth's question. But I want to touch on Sherry's because she's saying, that's what I'm feeling. I have some knowledge after completing the course, but not enough to help anyone, even knowing my niche, women over 30. They are all different. Some are athletes, some are couch potatoes. How do you get all the information to make it all work together? I have a response to that, but do you want to take your first crack at that?
The first crack of that would be to address that first point of not feeling like you know enough to help people. The fact that you're on this call shows me that you know plenty enough. Here's a little insider secret from the coaching industry that nobody tells you, that you only need to be 1 step ahead of your clients, not 100. You don't need to be this, wise sage on the top of the mountain with all the answers. You just need to be 1 step ahead of where people are at. That's it. That's literally it. So the fact that you've started this process, the fact that you understand some of these concepts, even if you feel like they're not fully integrated yet, but you're learning them and you're embodying them, you now know enough that could help 90% of the people in that specific demographic. So this idea again is just, I'll tell you this is worth, I'll say it twice, or write it down, or get it tattooed on your forehead or something. You are never going to feel ready.
Right.
Ever. Never going to feel ready. There's no amount of certifications. There's no amount of time. You're never going to feel ready. Ready is a decision. It's not a feeling. Mm-hmm. You just got to make the decision to go. The only way you're ever going to get close to maybe feeling ready one day is through countless hundreds of hours of real-time coaching. I don't feel ready yet. I have a highly successful coaching business, and now I'm a coach to coach coaches how to create businesses. I am still full of all of the same resistance and doubt that you are all full with, but I made a decision. I made a decision to go. I made a decision to take messy action. I made a decision to just do and learn from the doing. So you're never going to feel ready. No amount of certifications, no amount of anything that you do is going to make you feel ready. The only thing that's probably going to get you anything that looks like close is messy, bloody action. So get messy and dive in. You know enough.
Yeah. And look, I would say, first of all, kudos. And I second that. The only way you really gain confidence is by doing it over and over again. But what I would say with your niche, so women over 30 is a pretty big niche. You just said it. Some are athletes, some are couch potatoes. Pick one. Pick the couch potato, pick the athlete, maybe something that drills down even more to that women over 30. Or do these women already have kids? Are they about ready to have kids? I would even narrow that, find the one thing that you feel you can know enough about to make a difference. You do not have to know everything because you don't know the ins and outs of your client. Only they do. Right. So first of all, make a decision, get a little narrower, get really specific about what you do for which women over 30 that you want to specialize in. And to yours, a lot, to just piggyback on what Steve was saying about putting yourself in the mind of that person. What does this person need right now? And just go for it. But you're only really going to gain confidence by actually doing it. You don't know what you don't know until you've gone out to try to help people and they ask you a question you don't have the answer to. But I will tell you, if you don't know the answer, that's okay. Guess what? You've got thousands of people in the Primal Health Coach community. Somebody's going to have some experience there and know a little bit more about this. And you just post it in the Facebook group, send it to us in an email, and we will get you some thoughts to consider to try to help address what it is you're talking about. So Julie Graham has taken both of our courses, and she's saying, she would love to see us just combine our programs into one big, massive, amazing program. We split it up for a reason, Julie. I can get into that. I don't really want to talk about it now, but splitting it into two programs makes it much more customizable and flexible. And it's why we actually let people now buy the programs together and get a discounted price. So that from a pricing perspective, you're paying what you would probably pay had it been just one program rather than two, but it allows for more flexibility. So that's why. So I would encourage anyone that's hearing some of our graduates say something like that, consider them a package and just that you're just tackling them one at a time. Lots of I agrees. I have a 100% success rate with my clients. We have great rapport, but no referrals. They're all happy, continue to want to connect after their weight loss help. So Janice, are you asking about how to get referrals from your clients? If that's the case, kind of toss that in there, or certainly feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, that's actually my question. I have a really good rapport with my clients. I have a really good success rate. It's insane. And I don't know what ideas to use to get them to do referrals, because I love the incentivized stuff, Steve. That was very helpful. But, I just want to make them feel comfortable doing that. I feel like sometimes because of the realm that I'm in the 50 to 70 woman weight loss area. So sometimes I think they feel ashamed of it. I don't know. I'm not a low price coach. So
no, yeah. And maybe you can speak to that a little bit too, Steve, because I do think one of the things that comes up for people is around pricing and being priced fairly for yourself, right? So that you can actually earn a living doing this. And a lot of people feel kind of guilty. You get that pushback. Wow, that sounds expensive. My answer to that is always compared to what? Exactly. This is expensive compared to what? What are you comparing it to? Which is nothing. Or what insurance pays for, and where has that gotten you so far? When it comes to referrals, the way I would always lead with that is I would kind of tell my clients the number one way that clients come to me is through referral. And I'm often found in a situation where I can't always take anyone on, but if you ever have someone that needs my help and you have referred them, I always have room for friends and family of those that I've already helped. just, you have to put it out there that you are open to referrals without asking for it, because it does feel uncomfortable. Just saying, hey, you know, do you have anyone that might need my help? I frame it more from the perspective of just how much you've learned from the people that you've already coached, and that that you've learned so much from them, and that you prioritize their referrals over other clients that come to you. And sometimes it gets people thinking. I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on that, Steve?
No, there's been lots of good advice in terms of like some people's level of comfortability. So asking for various styles of testimonials too. If somebody is shy about sharing, you know, a video, which is always the most powerful form of testimonial. So by the way, getting them on a Zoom call and saying, hey, could I ask you some questions? I'm going to screen record it. It's going to be used in my marketing material. Some people aren't comfortable. Hey, could you do a written one that will stay anonymous? Who's not going to be comfortable doing that? I think the issue is a lot of people, and I think this was said actually in the comments, a lot of people wait till the end of the program. You want to capture people and get referrals and testimonials at the height of the peak experience. So when they are coming to you and they are like, Janice, holy shit, it's amazing. This is amazing. Capture it right then and there. Ask them, you know, immediately on that call or immediately after them, this would be so good. And just explain, look, make this about you. Think about how many of us here have tried to like help make a family member make a change, and just like the advice has fallen on deaf ears, right? A lot of people don't necessarily love themselves enough to change, and that's a hurdle with coaching, but they love other people enough to change for, like, so what you can do here is make this about you and express your needs and why you're asking for this, because it's a true gift that you get to do this, but it's not possible if you don't have the real word of mouth. So instead of just saying, hey, would you mind giving me a testimonial? Make it all about you. Hey, it would really, really help me if you'd be able to, and only if you're comfortable, but it's the lifeblood of my business. And it helps me support me so I can continue to learn and change more lives, just like we've done here. Would you be open to doing that? And look, boom, incentivize. If you do this, whoever comes, I'm going to take 10% off the top of their price. You tell me, I'm going to donate it to that charity. I'm going to give you a free coaching call. I'm going to give people something. People love to get shit. So yeah, just give them something.
Absolutely. Some sort of incentive works fantastic. I love that. Yeah. Or somebody else I knew actually printed out what looked like almost like money that they could gift to a friend or family member that provided them with something, a free discovery call or a certain percentage off a coaching package, something like that, that people have done. So Coach Becker, thanks for popping up here, buddy. He's got a couple things to say here at Ryan. The internet opens up the entire world to you. I only have one local client, but most of my clients are all around the country, even the UK and Australia. And Janice, so he's talking to you here, girlfriend. Are you asking them for referrals? People don't do it automatically. He's absolutely right. Most people, if you say something to the effect of, you know, what I just framed for you, a lot of people be like, oh, great. Thanks. We'll move on. You know, you'll have that 10% or 20% that will kind of get it and will actually think, you know what, I do have someone that I think you can really help. When I was a wedding photographer, I always asked my brides to share my website with all of their friends and coworkers when they got engaged. Sarah, you feel ready when you're doing it. Yes, I'm of the ask mindset. Don't just ask, reward and incentivize too. That's from Steve, of course. What I find tricky is helping a client steer towards mental change when they want to stay surface level and keep asking about the actions. They feel comfortable there. It's so hard for people to even connect to their own why and want to be helped getting there.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah.
Yep.
I'll comment on that nobody actually really wants to stay surface level. Everybody wants to go deeper. They're just afraid. What they need from you is the confidence that everything is figure outable, and that if you take them on that journey, that everything's going to be okay. And change is uncomfortable. That's why people resist it. You know, there is no aspect of change that is easy or comfortable. Make no mistake about that. If you hear a coach tell you, hey, this is going to be super easy, then they're pulling your leg. Change is very difficult. You know, change is a death process, to be dramatic about it, because all parts of your identity must die if you are to become who you're to become. And the truth of it is, whoever is here talking about taking the business to the next level, or whether you're a coach relaying your transformation into health, the truth of it is that a person's reality right now, their current identity is not congruent with the reality that they're trying to create, which tells us only one thing. that they need a completely new identity structure to call in the reality that they're trying to create that is congruent. That's a change process. That is a fundamental deep change of beliefs and self-talk and structures. And everybody knows that at a deep level. And everybody knows that if they're not willing to go there, they'll have maybe marginal success with very surface level things, but we're not here to go an inch deep and a mile wide. We're here to just dig, 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 and dig. And that's part of your prowess and your skill set and your your just the safe space that you create as a coach to take people into those spaces and to lead. What coaches do, and a lot of coaches fall victim to this, is they don't necessarily lead so much. They don't lead the dance as much as they just worry about keeping the client happy. And if a client pushes back in a little bit and has resistance, they just kind of like back off. And I understand why, but fundamentally a person wouldn't hire you as a coach if they didn't want to be led. And sometimes leading someone is asking the difficult questions and just helping them understand that, hey, I'm not going to force you, of course, into anything you don't want to do or anything that is uncomfortable. But at the same time, if nothing changes, nothing's going to change. And we really need to dig into some of these deeper topics. And this will then help you as you're enrolling clients, because again, an ICA is not a person that will not go into those places with you, because you're going to get surface level change. If you're okay with surface level change as a coach, then hire people that want surface level results. If you want to coach, if you want to be a coach of high impact, then all of your marketing and all of your strategy and enrollment is to qualify leads and have the intake form and not just see them from this scarcity mindset of, well, I'm in no position to turn clients away because I've never made a dime from this. So I'm just going to take them even if they're not the right fit, because it's going to become an energy drain on you. It's a relationship. Coaching is a relationship, and make no mistake about it, you're leading the dance, and they need to feel that you're leading the dance so that when you bring them into those places, they feel safe and they feel seen and they feel heard, and they're willing to go into these uncomfortable territories of navigating change. So it's difficult, no doubt about it, and a lot of people are going to resist it, and all of you are going to resist it. That's what we do. We're fundamental. We're not logical creatures. We're biological ones, and we dislike change. So that's where obviously we've got to focus, is on change.
This goes back to kind of the coach feeling comfortable doing the work as well within themselves. And look, the beginning of every coaching relationship is like that. It's like dating. Your first couple sessions are like your first couple dates, and they are going to be very surface in the beginning. And then so if you've got a client that's kind of pushing back a little bit, I would just be a little gentler and just try to go a little bit deeper each time, a little bit deeper, maybe press a little bit more on something you talked about last time that you don't really think went deep enough. And then they will loosen up over time. This is why in our program is 12 weeks. And you know what? I don't know about you, Steve, but more than half my clients are actually with me 6 months. Mm-hmm. It's just 12 weeks is easier to sell. So more than half of my clients re-up for another 12 weeks, because that's how long it takes for all this shit to come out and to really make a change. So don't be disheartened if it feels this way in the beginning, especially if you're a new coach and you're still honing your skills. All that's fine. You learn something new with each client. And you learn a lot. What the other thing that really helped me, I don't know about you, but I would reflect on some of these sessions about what I thought I could have done better, or what I might have asked differently. Just a little side there. You're welcome, Sherry. Sherry thanked us for what we were saying. And Jeremy, yes, Nike was right all along. Just do it. Vouchers, something like that. That's someone who's okay. So at Janice, some people are a bit embarrassed that they hired a health coach and like to keep that part of their journey private. Just wanted to add that in case your niche clients tends to be that way, but Becker's advice to ask is key. So I'm a little behind in these comments. Wow, they're really piling in. I like the flexibility of PHCI offering part 1 and 2. Yeah, that's a big chunk of why we did it. We're trying to keep it as affordable as we can, quite frankly. So, I mean, I guess we could frame it as that they really are a bundle, but if you need to, you can just buy the one. I mean, we could probably change our marketing a little bit there, but so I have a question on educational content for a 12-week program. What's daunting me right now is creating the educational material for my 12-week one-on-one program. Do you have any advice on how concise the information needs to be for clients to consume it reliably?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. One thing is leveraging some healthy pressure to cut through the procrastination. I often advise people to sell it before they've even made it. There's nothing that will spur you into action like telling someone we're going to start on Monday and not having anything planned and then making sure that you get it done by Monday, because otherwise you're going to spend 6 months or a year building out your perfect program. And in that 6 months to a year, you could have been coaching people. So yes, you need a framework. What I would advise you to do is in your development of your ideal client avatar is to think of the time frame that you want to work with people. Ideally, it's ideally not monthly, and I could go deeper into why monthly is not a very good option for most people. You want to sell a program, but you want to then think about the transformation that you want to provide within that program and the key milestones that they want to hit, and then you want to break that down on a weekly level. And then you want to create one piece of content that supplements your coaching call. It could be as simple as a pantry purge. It could be a video. It could be a PDF. It could be a homework assignment. It could be a, hey, listen to this podcast and share some reflections. It doesn't need to be immaculate. It doesn't need to be pretty. When you're getting started, I was closing high sales clients before I had a website, all of that stuff. I was doing everything through Dropbox and Google Drive and just sharing links. It was very messy. Now it's more pretty, because again, I wanted to take the messy action and learn about coaching as opposed to learning about having a beautiful website. And right now, if you go check my website, it's not exactly good. it's just okay. It's just a placeholder. These things are, yes, they can be important, but they're nowhere near as important as actually coaching, and putting yourself out there. So think about the transformation you want to apply, build certain modules around that. Modules can go weekly or bi-weekly. If it's a longer integration period, make it a 2-week module, and then create, a couple of supplementary videos, like maybe film yourself talking to the camera about why grains affect gut health, and have that be a 5-minute video that lives on a Google Drive or in a portal if you've got a website. And then the next week you can talk about why seed oils are potentially damaging, and then send that out. And then as you get deeper into your program, you're just going to uncover more stuff. And then remember, the whole time you're supplementing this with, I'm sure your clients are going to have access to you via text or Voxer or something like that. And I'm sure that they're going to have one coaching call a week. So really the value in your coaching program that you provide is not necessarily the program itself. It's the coaching that you provide in the one-on-one. The program is there as an extra layer of accountability and to touch on things that you might not always be able to get to in your 30, 45 an hour consultations that you're doing on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. But again, having that pressure to create is bloody valuable. So don't wait until you've got this beautiful and perfect 12-week program, because you're going to be waiting for a long time. So have a rough framework and then messy action. Get someone enrolled in your program, build it.
Erin Power talks about in her early days, she was creating the next week's lesson the week before.
Yeah.
She'd be talking to her clients and she was adjusting things literally in real time until she really came up with something that she loved. This, guys, is why we put out Primal Pro, by the way. Is it this exact question? People finding it completely overwhelming to build out the actual content part of your coaching program. I don't want this to be a whole pitch on Primal Pro. So just if you've got questions about it, call me. But that's the entire reason we built it. Because quite frankly, we dragged our feet on bringing that out for years. We kept bringing it up because people would ask, and Erin Power was like, no, this is something people need to learn how to do. This is part of the process. So no, I think we've given them a framework in our course. In the course, you've got the framework for a 12-week coaching program on like a flow of information. Just get out there and do it. But it wasn't until we kept hearing over and over again that it's what was keeping people from actually getting out there. It was a confidence thing. So look, for $1,000, if that gets you off the fence because it's costing you more than that in just time and effort, awesome. Let's talk about it. That's the reason we rolled it out. But there's a tremendous amount of value in just doing it, getting out there, coaching people, and developing your content as you go. Learning how to fly by the seat of your pants is pretty powerful. Second question from Mary Beth. I've read through the level 2 training. What would you say the added benefit is taking the additional training? So there's a bunch of people that have put a bunch of replies in here about how valuable the level 2 training is. See, I don't think, did you take level 2?
I did not.
Yeah. So, and maybe someone who's taking it, has taken it. I know Marissa's on here. Marissa, sorry, I always mispronounce your name. If one of you wants to pop on and add your 2 cents to Mary Beth, feel free. Otherwise, I certainly can, but I think it's more valuable coming from people that have recently graduated.
I just graduated a little while ago. Sorry, I just messed up the mute function real bad. Honestly, I had no idea what a health coach even did after completing the first course. I knew the science behind it and how to do it myself, but I didn't know how to get it out to somebody else and how to communicate that. And people would ask what a health coach did when I was telling them, my plans for the future, and I didn't really know how to answer them. But the level 2 course really kind of lays that out and gives you all the fundamentals on how to sit down and talk to someone and to understand there's necessary steps you should be taking and strategies involved as far as where my coaching conversations were in our first practice to where they were at the very end. I see a huge, remarkable difference. And I think it's very much worth it. And the fact that you guys brought in people who had already graduated and were helping us in that, I really appreciated that too, because their insight was very helpful.
Yeah, and I think it really it gave Aaron more bandwidth, because originally our first, I think Marisa was in our first cohort, maybe not, but we could really only take like 30 people because it was just Aaron. And then as we got through more cohorts and we had people that graduated, did very well, took the NBHWC exam, we brought them in to be facilitators. And I'm glad to hear that feedback, Ryan. Thank you. If anybody else
happy to jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Hi guys, it's Marisa, and I did just drop a link to a blog post on the Primal Health Coach website that I wrote just about this, because after I took the first cohort of level 2, my confidence in being a coach completely changed. My enthusiasm and drive, that is like career oriented, I guess you can say, was even more solidified. I never thought I'd be interested in becoming board certified before I took that class. And now I am board certified because of that. And you can see, if you open, Mary Beth, that link that I dropped in there, I talk about all of the things like interacting with your peers regularly as you're learning the material. Like Aaron just opens up conversation, and some people have clients already and some people don't. So there are these interesting dynamics going on where we're thinking of things and sharing and being vulnerable, and Aaron sharing her experiences. I mean, it was just exactly what we needed. A lot of us needed that, no matter where we were at in our career. And I really encourage you to consider it if confidence is even, something that you struggle with regularly.
I'd like to second that, and just to say that I was in the first cohort also, and a few of us then were facilitators. And I just want to say, to witness the arc of the confidence and the skill level of people from the early modules to the end of the program was really awesome. And this real-time role play that is in every session is just so valuable.
Yeah, and you know what I love about being able to do that, because we had gotten some feedback. I forget who it was from. And it's in the first course when we asked you to do a role play. Someone was saying, I don't really like doing that. It feels really contrived, like I'm acting. But that's not what level 2 is. These are actual coaching conversations. You're literally coaching each other through level 2. You get a lot of real, authentic interaction there. There's nothing more valuable than just getting more and more experience. That's where your confidence is going to come from. Thank you so much. Chris Becker, he's just dropping all these like pro bombs here. Instead of trying to get referrals, so he's still on this referral, trying to get referrals to sign up. Just ask people to get your free opt-in. That way they get into your funnel. I have a free app, and as soon as they download it, I ask them to share it. Then I ask them to share it at a week later. So after they've experienced the content for a bit, then when they sign up, tell them to make a public declaration, and then I train them to share my website. So it sounds to me like, Chris, like you're almost grooming people that experience you to share what they're learning and their experience from the beginning, which is awesome. I encourage you all to dive into this chat as well, because there's so much in here. There's no way we're going to get it all. Thanks for leading the dance. This is helpful. I think focusing on having the client lead is where I'm getting limited. Yeah. I work at a weight loss company and coach 15 to 20 people a day, and most of it is surface level, and calls are 10 to 15 minutes. So sometimes it's hard to get people to open up. Wow, 10 to 15 minutes. It takes weeks to get some people to get their walls down. Wow, Steve, what's your opinion on? So Adrian, I know you and I chatted, and I know where this is coming from, but Steve, how long do you think a good coaching session should take?
I mean, an intro session should be an hour, and follow-up session should be 30 to 45 minutes. 10 minutes is tough. It's going to be tough though to kind of build any kind of rapport, and that's potentially where you can you know, like look at building something else outside of this. It sounds like you're probably very busy, but you know, it's classic that if you don't, you're going to kind of experience that same kind of resistance over and over again. And you can speak to what you can speak to in that short space of time, but it's going to be hard to really go deep in that short space of time, unfortunately.
Yeah. So Mary Beth, I meant to send this to Laura. Doesn't the coach training give the option of a 12-week framework to get started? Yes. So what comes with the cost of tuition and just that primary course is an entire framework, an entire infrastructure that you can then use as kind of like a chassis to build something using that as like a starting place. So we don't leave you hanging. That's for sure. Did you use any of that content, Steve? How did you use what was kind of already in there, if at all?
From the 12-week?
Yeah, the one that was
Yeah.
in the original course. Yeah.
Hey, David, if you can hear this, can you hit mute, please? Or Laura, you could probably do it as the coach. The name's David Baker. There's some feedback on his mic. So on the course, like when I was getting started, it was very, very important and very powerful for me because it was just like everybody else. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was fake it till you make it. And I remember putting myself out there as a health coach. And, you know, just my first one was a family friend who was like, all right, I'll do this thing with you. And I was like, oh, okay, great. And all right, will you pay this? She was like, yeah, I'll pay that. And I was like, okay, great. So let's start on Monday. How's that sound? Yeah, okay. And then I went in and I followed that formula like to a T, and obviously just like kind of made it my own and spoke to those things. But that, you know, that's a really beautiful like skeleton framework to work from. And then as you go, you just kind of add things in, and, you know, and as you go, you can remove things as well. You know, you don't like, you can branch out. You know, for me, I started as a primal health coach. For now, I'm much more holistically minded. So I work more so, you know, again, you know, speaking to my own transformation, diet is actually in my coaching now is a very small piece of what I do. You know, mindset is significantly more important because I can have these breakthrough sessions with people where we can completely change the way they look at everything. And then installing a new eating pattern is easier. You can get them to do that much easier. So it changes and it evolves as you evolve. And that's the beauty of coaching. But everything that Primal Health Coach provides is more than enough to get started, and more than enough to follow that framework. It's dialed in.
Lean into coaching and the rest will follow. So Scott Pride is asking, so other than resistance to just getting started, what other factors are the biggest factors that keep coaches from finding success in coaching?
I mean, there could be a lot going on. It could be that the calls to action that you're making are not landing in the right people's laps. You might be being too generic or vague in your messaging. So it's useful, but it's not really speaking to people on a deep level. You might not be communicating that well. The potential issues that you solve for people, so they just see you more as like a guy that's giving really handy dandy free information, as opposed to a coach that can help solve a specific problem. And as always, what happens a lot with coaches is that they don't make it known that they're a coach. They may, you know, put a little title on the blog and they may have coach in the name, but they're not showing up face to camera and saying, hey, I'm a coach. This is what I do. I have a program. Ask me about it. I'll tell you about it. This is what I do with my coaching. This is what I help people with. And I guarantee you something, you will never make any sales if you don't make any calls to action. So it's not purely a numbers game, of course, because the information's got to be good, but you've got to make more calls to action. You've got to make sure that your content is speaking to a specific problem that you're going to help solve on a high level for people.
So this reminds me of something, because Steve was one of the first interviews we did on our podcast, right? You were one of certainly the first 10. And you very proudly stated, you know, my niche is the no niche. Yeah. And so you're talking a very different tune. So what I gather from that is you gained a certain level of success without having to niche down. I think a lot of that is your personality, right?
Yeah.
And your story that drew people. But what is it that made you change your mind to what you were just saying right there about being very specific and talking to a person? Yeah.
Yeah, the difference again was really leveraging your expert advantage in being a specialist as opposed to a generalist. Well, I had maybe some popularity and ran a few Facebook groups, which were very fun and had a good amount of people coming in. There's only so much money you can make selling, low ticket offers at $50 a pop and getting, 30 people involved. It felt great. And the diversity within those rooms was great. But to go to a high ticket program and build, a sustainable income and scale to beyond 6 figures, you need to be able to get people to invest in high ticket offers. And the only way you can really do that is to really hone in. And I'll say this as well. Now I'm a men's coach predominantly, and that's where my ICA is crafted. So when I create content, it's created with my ICA of a busy professional male in mind. And at the same time, even though I make no direct calls to action to women, I still have probably, 25% of my clientele be women. As long as it still feels good for me and it's an energetic match and it's a yes, it doesn't mean that going all in on a niche excludes everybody else. But what it does allow you to do is leverage your position of expertise and authority. And the example, that was taught to me, which resonated a lot, is like, God forbid you got in a car accident and you busted up your face pretty bad. And there were 2 surgeons in town. And there was one surgeon that was really cheap and he did a bit of everything, did a bit of butts, did a bit of boobs, did a bit of facelifts, but he was dead cheap. Or there was one guy in town and he was 4 times as much, but all he did was facial reconstructions after surgery from a car accident. Like, who are you going to? You're clearly going to the expert because you want to solve problems. And here's the thing, people will pay a very good amount of money if you can solve their problems and they feel confident in that. So it's very possible to charge $3,000+ for a high ticket coaching program for 12 weeks.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. What a great analogy. Thank you for that. So this is interesting. So Bill Sias, I want you to pipe in here if you're in a place where you can unmute. It says my pre-level 2, my sessions were 60 minutes and post level 2, they're 30. Kind of, do you just feel like you're a more efficient coach now as far as how you tailor your conversations?
Aaron made a big point about being efficient and productive. And a lot of what I've done is just be more efficient, more productive. I used to waste 15 minutes easily in the conversation discussing things that had nothing to do with the client's health. And I was a 6-figure coach before doing either of the Primal sessions. And Laura, you're the person who signed me. And I did level 1, level 2 at the same time, against your advice. And while I haven't seen a significant uptick in income yet, I'm confident it will, because I can see more people now. And it turns out, talking with other coaches, I have an extremely large caseload, but I manage it pretty well.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah. I mean, to a certain degree, I think you're right. There's in the beginning of a coaching conversation, and I knew I was guilty of this. I don't know about Steve, but in the beginning of a coaching conversation, in order to kind of warm up, it was quite a bit of chit chat in the beginning that really you could do away with. It doesn't mean that you're not building rapport with the client, but you're respecting their time as well. Right.
And if they need to talk, I'm going to let them talk. But, sometimes I had a session today at noon my time with someone who just needed somebody to talk to. And I just sat and listened. We scheduled for half an hour. We went for 35 minutes and we discussed none of the things that were on the schedule, but we discussed everything that needed to be talked about.
I love it. Yeah. Give them, if they need to talk, let them talk. But to a certain degree too, sometimes folks, do tend to go down this negative mind warp rabbit hole that we sometimes need to unwind a little bit, guide a little bit. But, if they're going down this positive mindset rabbit hole, we want to feed into that and sort of let them run and just kind of let them get what's on their mind off their mind. So thank you very much for that, Bill. Marisa. Gosh, I keep mispronouncing your name. I've known you for how long and I still pronounce it wrong? I'm sorry, Marisa. Scott, I've noticed that a large percentage of new coaches enter the field with too much family imposed pressure or urgency to succeed or make money. That pressure gets in the way of the natural sequence that unfolds as a coach fails multiple times and discovers their ideal client, niche, strengths, and offers. It takes time and patience, trial and correction. Thank you for that. Ryan's got a great question here. Steve, I think you're prepared to answer that, and maybe Coach Becker can pipe up. But I've got a website up that needs a lot of work, and I have 0 social media. Where should I start? How should I start? I'm so lost in that department.
Yeah, you got a website up, so it's done is better than perfect. So right now, focus on what you don't have and close the gap on that. So if you've not got any social media, start there. Start putting, throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. simultaneously, you can certainly start chipping away or hire someone to help you with your website. But again, it depends what kind of coach you want to be, where you feel confident and competent. But social media is a great low hanging fruit to flex that muscle of showing up and creating content. Nobody feels good at it at first. I used to hate showing up face to camera, and now I can do it on a whim and talk to a camera for, I could talk for 4 hours straight if you couldn't tell, without blinking an eye, because I've just done it. I've just put the reps in. It was very uncomfortable for me at first, but it's just through trial and error and showing up, and just show up and just see what lands, and don't be discouraged when there's not much feedback. All you're doing is you're developing your playlist, you're developing your song. The way social media works is like you hear a song that you like, and then you track it down through a listening app or whatever, and then you find a band, and then you go through their albums and you find what resonates. That's what each piece of content is, like a song, and you're trying to bring people into your album so they can see who you are as a band and what song you're singing. But the only way people are going to find you is if you put it out. So keep the placeholder of a website in place. Have a very basic funnel that collects emails. So just like develop a PDF that's like, my 3 best tips for accelerating fat loss, something that people are going to want, and all they've got to do is exchange an email for it. So you can start slowly building an email list, and then slowly building your online presence. That's where I would start. And just again, remember that done is better than perfect, and messy action is the way you're going to get all of this done.
Yeah, figure out what you like to do. Because you're a natural for Instagram, Steve. You like doing videos. It's a natural medium for you, right? Natural platform for you. But if that's not your bag, maybe you're a better writer, where you can, maybe more of a Facebook where you've got some sort of a photo that captures someone's attentions, but it gives you a little bit more room for a caption with the ability to embed a link to a blog post. LinkedIn, if your network is like professionals of some kind, that network there might be better. But if you can get comfortable in video, people get to know you. I think that was part of your success early on too, Steve, even though you weren't niching, is you were you, man, out there on that video. People knew exactly who you were. You were well known for that morning. I don't have your full accent, but that
was good.
So as far as just, you just have to get started, Ryan. Pick a platform, decide what medium you feel most comfortable with, and run with it. Right? Here, Patrick. Tortorici, I hired Steve at the end of last year. So worth it. Men, you need to talk to this man. I love that. Bryony, Steve and Laura, thank you so much for this time. Honest gift of sharing your journey and experience. Level 2 was a wonderful experience. I'd recommend it. Hello to all level 2s from last September. Brief is everything, Patricia is saying. Coach Becker, if y'all haven't read The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanier, add it to your list. Thank you for that tip. Bunch of people needing to head out because we're at 7. Thanks for the section. So this is all great. Webinar has been gold. Thank you so much. You are also welcome. We are at over 7 o'clock. So Steve, I want to give you the floor to any kind of remaining comments. There's a bunch of questions I had that I didn't even get to ask, but that's okay. And I know Mary Beth kind of wanted to know a little bit more, the nuts and bolts of like how you built your practice. Maybe you can kind of end on that a little bit and see if anybody else has a residual question, and we'll let everyone go.
Yeah, sure. Again, my practice was built through, just kind of going through that process I just described to you, which was, again, when I was building a high ticket program, I was coming from that more of that generic no niche, and I was just, nothing was really landing. And that didn't give me the confidence to, charge what I was worth. I think back now, and I was charging $800 for a 12-week program. And it's a lot, it's a lot of your energy that you're giving for not a lot of financial reward. And a mistake that definitely coaches make is they price themselves, very, very low. And it's because a lot of, beliefs and, all of that stuff comes up. But people that are invested. People that pay attention. It's not just a money game. It's an energy game. If you get somebody to give you a significant amount of money, what they're doing is giving you a significant amount of energy. And that investment is not in you either. It's mostly in themselves and the belief to make a change, but they trust you to help facilitate that process. So wherever you're at right now, whatever you're doing, raise your prices, all of you. Secondly is to then figure out who your ICA is, and then speak to their pain points, figure out what what transformation you want to provide in what kind of timeline, brand your program, give it a name, because when you can start to say, I am the founder of X, it puts you in a position of authority. So create your program, sell your program. Don't sell monthly packages. Well, not don't. I mean, everybody's got to do what they can do, but it's much more lucrative to sell a package and then go to a monthly maintenance model after that. And then ultimately that's it. All right, what 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 steps am I going to take somebody through in 12 weeks? What is the content that I'm going to create from there? What is the platform I want to house it on? If that's not in the budget right now, how can I create a Google Drive folder? And then how can I come up with this name? And how can I start speaking about this thing as quickly as possible and saying, you know, providing the value on your stories and in your posts, explaining the what and the why, but keeping the how for your signature methodology. So this is what you want. You're speaking to your ICA's pain points. This is why you want it, because your life is better on the other side of this. How? Here's a little teaser, but this is what we really go deep on inside of my program. This is what we do specifically in module 1, when I help you relearn all of your beliefs around eating. You know, it's like, oh, okay, well, I know this guy's a coach, and then people are going to watch for a long time. Mm-hmm. Patrick is a great example, who said a little bit further up in the chat that he hired me this year. Patrick admittedly told me that he was an Instagram stalker for like 4 years before he finally reached out and was like, all right, I'm ready, man. People are watching. And that's why you've got to build consistency and trust with your audience. So keep showing up. Your program, you've already got enough knowledge. Your program just has to be systematized a little bit in terms of your 4 transformation pillars. The client transformation timeline that you want to build is the time frame that it's going to take for that to happen. Chuck a name at it, something that feels good, and then get to work trying to sell that and then, you know, stay one step ahead of your client. That's all you need to be. And you'll refine the process. You'll add things that work. You'll remove things that didn't work. You'll continue to grow as coaches because you're all growth-minded people, or you wouldn't be here. So you'll just keep adding things and tweaking things and refining your process. And, you know, that's about the best way you can just, you know, get some traction early and then really start believing that you can do this thing.
I love it. Awesome. So this was awesome. Thank you so much. This was our first crack at our coach's corner, little fireside chat. So thank you for volunteering to be my first guinea pig. And I know Marisa has volunteered. Both Chris's have volunteered. There's a few people that jumped in here that volunteered for future sessions. So we're going to be trying to do these once a month. I will be sending out the replay to this. So if you've got questions about anything you heard, Steve, where can people find you? If they want to start following you, if they're not already, if they want to reach out to you for help, where can they find you?
Just everything's at Instagram, Peak Primal Health. That's where you'll see me being annoying. Let's just go over there and you'll be sick of me in no time.
We're all going to be practicing our good morning so that we just sound awesome. I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. It has been awesome. We will be sending out the replay to anyone that registered for this, whether you made it or not. So this has been great. Thank you so much, as always. And any other questions, just give me a holler. Oh, the last thing I wanted to throw out there for anyone that isn't a student, isn't a student or yet has not enrolled, is we do have a discount offer on the primary course right now, 20% off, as well as that bundled program too. So reach out to me and I can go through those details for those that are on this call. But other than that, thank you, Steve. It's been real. I always love talking to you. And thank you to everybody that piped up, asked questions, shared where you were from, gave us your opinion, shared advice. It makes us so valuable. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And fam, if you do head over to Instagram and follow, shoot me a DM so we can connect. I love to hear feedback when I'm on a podcast or something about like what was one big takeaway. So if you could share that with me so I could connect with you so I can continue that conversation. I'd love to know your biggest takeaway from tonight. And my challenge to you now is to just do something with this, because otherwise it's just great information that sits up here floating somewhere. So integrate it, take action, apply it, and you've got some really good juice here.
Awesome. Just do it.
Thank you very much, fam.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Bye-bye.